You want to buy the last it's a Reverend Gemma.
My son
Like water
name's Rayan.
gateway thing.
Dean Rayan.
Your son?
My son, Dean and Rayan, which is the gate for Jannah.
Yeah, and
So, yeah. Everybody's naming stuff after Jannah. Jannah's also a name. Nobody names their daughter or son Halib or Asad, but there's like...
no, I have a friend named Asad.
Really? His rivers are milk and honey. Halib. Can you imagine? My son's name is Halib.
Halib?
Halib.
The waiting, this is real life.
Handle me in here, or do you do
I like your joke.
relax?
It's a joke.
I could laugh, right?
That's not how you
Yeah.
I've never heard you laugh. It's a word in my so stop.
Never heard me laugh in general.
Okay, you're a senior. Act like it.
Okay,
Oh my God.
stand by everybody, we're about to roll. Stand by, lock in.
What?
That's where you were coming in, Senator.
Okay, we good?
Yep.
Alright. Once the music fades out, then that's your...
Here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're tuned in to the Nest radio station, your source for engaging student-led conversations about our community. I'm your host, Lema Sharara, and today we have a great show for you. In this episode, we'll be talking with local community activist Samraa Luqman about the importance of being engaged in your community and fighting for positive change. Before we begin our interview, I'd like to tell our listeners a little about Ms. Luqman's background. Ms. Luqman grew up in a household that valued civic duty and community service. Her parents were both highly engaged in bringing about positive change in their community, and she has since followed in their footsteps. Ms. Luqman has dedicated her life to educating and fighting for her community, especially when it comes to the detrimental impacts of pollution on the environment and people's health. Her activism is driven by deeply personal experiences, such as her son developing a tumor at a young age, and her neighbors suffering from respiratory illnesses, cancer, and other health issues linked to the pollution from nearby factories. Ms. Sam Luqman, thank you for joining us today at the Nest radio station.
Thank you guys for having me.
We're so glad you're here. Let's jump into our first question. Noor, take it away.
We're so glad you took the time to meet with us today. We'd like to start off by learning a little bit more about the work you do. What are you working on currently?
Oh my gosh, what am I not working on? So I'm an environmental justice activist. So I'm working on initiatives that go towards kind of mitigating some of the pollution and environmental health impacts in my community. I do pro bono social justice advocacy work for students with special needs and minority populations within public schools. I sit on the board of like 6 or 7 different nonprofits and organizations, and right this minute, like this year, I'm working a lot in political campaigns and political activism.
So your work, as you mentioned, your work like focuses heavily on the information and on the environment and how to help mitigate the harmful effects of urbanization and pollution. So like, why is that your passion? Like, what kind of inspired you to go into that line of work?
So it wasn't necessarily like a passion. Like I did not, go to high school and college saying, I want to be a climate change activist or I want to fight pollution. And I have no scientific background. I'm not an engineer. I am not a biologist. I didn't study this stuff. I grew up kind of with my dad passed at an early age, but my mom really put me and my sisters and my brother into the forefront when it came to community activism. So we would fight things like the trucking in our neighborhood and ordinance changes and zonings and stuff like that. But over the years, I started watching my neighbors one by one dying or living with really serious diseases. And I came to the realization that there's no way everybody came from Yemen, Lebanon, wherever, with asthma and cancer in their families. So just to give you an idea, like in my family, 4 of my family members have had tumors removed. My mother is currently living as a colon cancer and lung cancer survivor, and she's never smoked a day in her life. My neighbor has no breasts because she's had a double mastectomy from breast cancer. Kitty corner to us, my other neighbor died of breast cancer. Next door, 2 houses down, another neighbor died of COPD. A few doors down from that, another neighbor died of breast cancer. I know at least 5 people in my community, the south end of Dearborn, who have died of nasal cancer. And nasal cancer is one of the rarest cancers in the world. So over the years, seeing this, I was not only sad every time somebody got diagnosed and scared for my family members, I got angry. And because I got angry, I started to look into the reasons and the causes why, and then I began to fight the system.
How long have you been doing this profession?
I mean, I wouldn't call it profession. This is not something I do for a job. I do this in my spare time. I take off time from work to attend meetings. I do this in the evenings. I go to meetings. I've been doing this, I think the first time I ever was involved in any kind of public advocacy, my mom put my sister and I up at a school board meeting to speak about racism in our school, and I was 16 years old. And then by the time I was 18, I was going to zoning board meetings at the city of Dearborn. I was going to, planning commission meetings. I was going to city council meetings. So I've been doing this since I was probably roughly around the age of some of you guys here.
Was there like a specific occasion that happened where it just kind of flipped a switch that made you more determined?
I mean, more determined, yes. My son, when I'd always wanted to have kids. That was, I'm Arabic, so I was raised like family and having children. That is the dream, right? For us, to have a family and be a mother. And so when I finally got married, and I had my son, he was my dream come true. And then within 6 months, he grew this tumor in his mouth, under his tongue, and it kept growing and growing. It became almost, I think it was larger than his tongue at one point. And so several surgeries later, they had to remove his salivary ducts, like his saliva glands. After that, it didn't hit me at that time, but right after that, I became even more upset. And that was kind of like the wake up moment. That was about 7 years ago. I mean, prior to that, I still advocated for those things, but that really set a fire under me to do more work.
You were exposed, at a young age with everything going around. Is your son getting that same treatment?
You mean exposed as what?
Exposed to what's going on around the world and making that change?
Oh, exposure to community activism. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as a matter of fact, my kids, since they were about the age of 3, have been with me at political campaigns. Like when we go outside and stand outside of a polling booth, holding up signs, passing out flyers. They went door knocking with me when they were 4 and 7. So from an early age, my kids do go and do, campaigning and activism. My son wrote a letter to the mayor, which I took a picture and I kept, and he keeps saying he can't wait for the day where he gets to go to city council and speak in front of the mayor and tell him about shutting the corporations down that are making us sick.
Do you think you're trying to involve your kids into what you're doing too?
I'm purposely doing that. I learned from my mom. My mom kind of did it, coincidentally, because there just weren't enough hands in the community that were willing to go to meetings. So she would take us to speak up. And, I didn't want to. I hated it. And at your age, I wanted to be hanging out with friends. I wanted to be at parties. I wanted to do whatever young kids do. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But now I'm purposely doing it to my kids at an even earlier age so that by the time my kid is 16, he loves it. It took me a decade, 2 decades to finally be like, wow, this is a passion. I love going into, like, my mom always says to me, you're so stressed out. This is all stress. And I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. I'm a single mom. I'm in between 4 walls with 2 kids and a sick mother all day. And I'm stressed out from work. I'm stressed out for everything. But for me, when I get to go to a city council meeting or a school board meeting or whatever, and I just get to let those people have it that deserve it, or I get to go to a corporation meeting and I just unleash on those, I walk out of there like stress-free. Like, I am so happy to have purged all those negative feelings on people that deserve it, on people who can make changes but won't, who are putting money before people. So, you know, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. It's become a passion. It's become something I love.
How do you like work around those that aren't aware of what they're doing?
I think that's the biggest hurdle. So, well, there's 2. In terms of just community organizing, the biggest problem I have, number 1, like, I don't have that much time. I need other people that can learn from me or from others and can also step up to the plate. I need other activists. I need other advocates that are willing to speak up or just show up to a meeting. That's the first thing. Just getting people to become activists. And then the second thing is just education to the masses. I can't reach enough people in enough time. And by the time you're teaching somebody that, you know, don't go outside on this day because the air quality is bad on this day, they've already exposed themselves and their family members. I remember during the fires, the wildfires, like about a year or 2 ago, the entire community was just smog, completely just smog ridden. And I looked outside and there's kids playing out there. And I thought to myself, oh my God, like, if you knew that playing outside today in 1 year could cause you lung cancer, you would probably tell your kids to get inside.
Yeah.
So how do you educate those? Those are the 2 strongest, biggest hurdles I have.
How do you decide what needs your immediate like attention? Because you can't necessarily wait for someone to die or someone to get cancer. How do you decide that you need to take action right now without it being too late?
Well, I mean, yeah, you know, prioritization of your life and your and the activities in your life, you know, really over time, you learn that some things are more important than others. And there are some times where I've had to set aside, you know, my family, or I've set aside my other work, or I've set aside other things. Like right now, this to me, being here, is a priority because I'm reaching you guys and everybody that's listening to you guys, and I've set aside my work. I've put in vacation time. There are some things that are just more important than others. And I think that just comes, you know, if you don't know how to prioritize that, just ask your parents. I think there's a lot of wisdom behind our parents that we don't necessarily always want to lean on, or ask other people. But I've learned over time that there are some things that are just more important than others.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Knowing that the local industries, like, they never want to like change, what can individuals do to make the impact? I know you answered it, but more.
Oh man, they don't want to change, but you can make them change. And I've learned that. So like right now, we're suing the steel mill, and they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in penalties, and they're going to be monitoring their systems better. They've had to invest over $100 million to replace what we call electrostatic precipitator. But basically, they have to replace a component in their steel mill to make sure they're not polluting the air. They are having to buy every single home an air purifier. So what can you do to make changes? By God, there are so many. I've had, like literally, Elizabeth Warren has come to the South End during a presidential campaign. Bernie Sanders came and campaigned in the South End at Salina School. The Attorney General, all of the, I mean, you name it, state reps even from Arizona have come to our community to pass changes, pass laws, federal laws, state laws, environmental, municipal laws, ordinances, etc. What can you do? Oh my God, it's limitless what you can do. And then if you can't get through to the legislators, you can't get through to the government, then you go through the route of the judicial system and you sue the crap out of them. You can make changes. They want you to think that you can't. They want you to think it's a dead end, but you can. And then there's several other examples, but I'm gonna stick to
Yeah.
the script.
So what are your we kind of still have the whole Flint water crisis thing going on.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's atrocious. I think it's the fact that it's colored people that you know, the reason why to this day they don't have clean water.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, and knowledge is power. When you had, you know, the Flint water crisis, you have these many years and people still can't get clean water. Let me give you another example that's similar. In Rockford, Navscoda, Michigan, there's two small cities in Michigan. They had what is called PFAS contamination. It's the white foam, if you've ever heard of it. It's used like firefighting foam to put out fires. Well, they had contamination from a company over there called Wolverine. And within a matter of a couple of years, the state came down, they sued the company, they passed laws, statewide laws that regulated this chemical, and they ensured that this company invested in ways to get clean water to these residents. What's the difference between those people and Flint? Those people were white. Okay, I live in an area that is predominantly black and brown people, and because it is black and brown people, you have corporations, you have elected officials that just don't care. They know it's bad air. It's some of the most hazardous air in the entire nation. Dearborn, the South End, literally has some of the dirtiest air in the nation. It's not just dirty, it is literally hazardous for your health. Like, you breathing it on a daily basis is going to guaranteed give you some kind of disease that's going to kill you.
Yeah. So that's
And-
probably why, you know, most of the like issues like health related probably come from, you know, that specific area.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been several studies that show, like asthma, for example, we have 3 to 4 times the asthma rates in our community than people, you know, in the regular state average.
Yeah.
So if you in my community, 1 in 6 people has asthma. If you go just 5 miles down to like the west end of Dearborn or like where you guys are at, because the air disperses more, your rates are 1 in 12 people, which is still twice the state average. But you notice that this is ground zero. So asthma is one of the most frequently diagnosed illnesses in our community. But you have things like COPD, I mentioned. You have kidney cancers, nasal cancers, breast cancers, all kinds of cancers. You have early premature death, just a whole slew of different things that you know it cannot be, you know, it's not in everybody's family. They always tell you, oh, did your father have cancer, did your whatever.
Yeah.
This is something that is definitely environmental. I want you guys, if you ever get a chance to watch a movie, it's called Erin Brockovich, and it shows you as a similar community like ours, where everybody was having cancer, getting cancer, and they found out it was an environmental issue.
And given the serious health impacts that you've witnessed in your community, what specific actions do you believe like industries and companies should address to their environmental responsibilities?
So one of the things, again, they don't tell you is that there are ways to limit the pollution that comes out. So right now they're using like fossil fuels or coal, met coke, pet coke,
Yeah.
if you've ever heard those. Those are coal. If you can imagine the old locomotives where they used to shovel like black coal into the locomotive, that's currently what they're using in our steel making processes today. They don't need to do that. There are new technologies, it's called green steel making processes, that they can use where they don't need to even use coal. They can limit the amount of pollution in the air like that. But what is preventing them from doing so? Money. It costs money to upgrade your system. So what they're doing is essentially saying, your lives are not worth enough.
Yeah.
Your lives are not worth
Like
it.
they're not gonna put that much effort and money.
Right, exactly. Like this electrostatic precipitator, the ESP I mentioned, it cost $135 million to replace it. They replaced it because of the last lawsuit. They could have replaced it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Why didn't they? Our lives weren't worth it then. You know, it's all about money.
I feel like making those changes though, especially in terms of like with money playing a factor, it takes a long time to get those changes to happen. Are there immediate steps that companies can take right now to change?
They can take them, they don't want to. So what takes a long time is for me, someone like me, to build the capacity, the manpower. It takes a long time for me to get the data. It takes a long time for me to get elected officials to be on board and make changes. But can they make those changes immediately? It took them a year to replace the ESP, just 1 year. They can do them immediately. And it doesn't even have to be that. Let me give you an example of another issue, okay? And this is pertaining to like the state government, the city government, the officials in our that we elect, right? And this is why it's so important to participate in elections. And about 20 years ago, in 1999, our community already had some of the worst air in the nation. Our city approved adding a natural gas power plant into our community. So now we have a natural gas power plant in our community that emits formaldehyde and a whole bunch of other carcinogens. But our city government could have said no. And so it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to like, at this point, I'm at a point where it's like, I'm not going to be reactive anymore. I need to be proactive. And I'm going to go to those meetings before anything happens and try to make changes that way.
I feel like all of our listeners are more informed right now because I know I didn't know half of these things.
Yeah, me either.
And it's crazy how many things go like under the rug
Yeah.
and like aren't presented to the public. And I'm sure everyone will be more likely to get involved now that they're listening. But at this time, we're going to take a short commercial break.
Just copy you guys. Sorry. Am I talking too fast?
No, you're
they're
good.
only-
It's my nervousness.
No, you're good. People can't even tell, honestly.
Where are we at?
Second page.
Hey, we'll find out lost too.
We're gonna start
No,
at
it's
welcome
right.
back.
It's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I see
We don't
it.
should wait for this first.
Stand script.
Yeah, I know.
You're going way too long. We have to stay on.
It's just
Yeah,
we
no,
accidentally
you can
reordered
see
the
us, but you can't
questions,
hear us.
that's why.
It's 'cause she answered.
No, it's just she asked the
But we're asking follow-ups that are.
individuals, yeah.
What'd you do?
It's all- And we're back. Welcome back to the Nest radio station. I'm your host, Lema Sharara. Today we're here with Miss Samraa Luqman. Thank you so much for taking your time to come to the Nest radio station to share your journey with our community.
Any impactful, beneficial projects around the community. Was there any time that you wanted to give up, like stop trying because of the challenges of achieving your goals seemed impossible? What advice would you give to our generation to keep them going even when things seem impossible to change?
Yeah, there's one thing in my life specifically that I remember. I was coming out of a meeting, and listen, in this line of work, you get a lot of attacks, personal attacks, attacks on your family, you get threats and whatever. One of the attacks that I had faced was during a school meeting with parents and what have you, and I walked out of there, I called a friend, I started crying, and I was like, why do I even do this? All they're gonna do, they just, they're never gonna change. It just makes us look bad. It makes me look bad. I'm done. I want to quit. And he said, no, actually, it's because you've been doing all wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to run for office. And so I actually ran for office for city council that year, and I lost. And I ran for state rep the following year. I still lost. But the point is that once I did that, even though I didn't win the election, I won coming out of the election. I now had a following. I now had people who trusted me. I now had experience in campaigning. I had now elected officials that were afraid I was going to run against them again. And so people started listening. And it may not be to my liking. It may not be as much as I want, but they started listening. And so what I would say is that if you're ever in a position where you feel like you are not making a change, first of all, you're always making a change no matter how you feel. The fact that you're just advocating or you're speaking up means that you're making a change. I don't care if it's a Facebook post.
Yeah.
You're speaking up. But I would say that if you feel like what you're doing is not working, then don't quit. Just find another strategy. Come about it a different way.
And if any of our listeners want to get involved, like what organizations in the area should they reach out to volunteer for?
So there's so many different organizations. I mean, there's political organizations, environmental organizations, there's neighborhood associations, there's a whole slew of different things. If any of you have time and want to, and you don't know which one to go to, and you have a specific thing in mind, just email me. My name, it's Samraa, Samraa Luqman, Luqman @gmail. Just email me and I'll point you in the right direction.
And is there any age requirement or?
No, you don't have to have anything. I've had high school students volunteering for campaigns, for different things. Absolutely not. You can start tomorrow if you wanted to.
Do you think there is a specific age, though, that would be best for people to start getting involved?
Well,
'Cause you got involved young. Your kids are getting involved young.
yeah,
Do you think it's ever too late?
No, my kids have been campaigning with me since they were 3. So, I mean, it's never too early to start. Never too early. You guys can start, and you actually should start immediately. There are so many different things that you could be advocating for, from the wars or the economy or different social justice issues. Anything and whatever you feel you're passionate about, you should be involved from right now.
I feel like when it comes to getting involved or anything like that, sometimes societal pressure can get overwhelming in a way. And I feel like even then, with this interview, it could be overwhelming. You know what I mean? So I want to end this on a light note, have us sit back, relax a little bit. And so thank you so much for sharing your personal experience with us and your advice on how we can get involved. And we're close to wrapping up, but we want to play a little game. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, quick explanation is that it's a game mix of trivia and Family Feud called Higher or Lower. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to answer higher or lower, depending on the data we give you, and you're just going to say higher or lower. Okay? We're going to start off with an easy one. You know who Taylor Swift is, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how to make sure. So the statement is Taylor Swift has 300 million followers on Instagram. Is it higher or is it lower?
Higher? No? Oh, no.
She actually has 284 million followers, which is still crazy.
Okay, I was close.
Do you have a favorite song by her?
Her older ones. You know that, you be the prince and I'll be the princess.
Love
Oh, Love
Story.
Story.
Love
There you
Story.
go.
I was gonna say, I don't-
Baby, just say yes. That she's a singer. I'm pretty sure I'll ask her.
So here's like a more like, you know, actual like, you know, politician-based question. So as of today, Michigan has 6 million active registered voters. Do you think the real number is higher or lower?
Higher.
Yeah, it is. It is higher. It's 7.2 million actively registered voters.
Quick answer.
Yeah.
And this one's more like about like more, it's based on pollution wise. It's like a good question. There are 5 million electrical vehicles on the road in the U.S. as of 2023. Do you think the number is higher or lower?
Lower.
Yeah, that's correct. EVs on the road.
Okay. Yeah, we need more of them, I guess.
For real.
Yeah.
Okay, quick. Pitch electrical vehicles right now. How would you sell them?
How would I sell it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, who needs diesel?
That's it?
I mean, do
Fill
you
it
like
up.
smelling those fumes? I don't.
No, absolutely not. And I don't think that's good for the air.
You know,
either.
people actually like to smell gasoline.
Yeah.
It's nauseating.
Nope. It's like the same thing with. Have you guys heard that like everyone like likes to smell sharp?
No.
Yeah.
No idea.
Or acetone, like nail polish remover, all that. It's weird.
Never heard
ingredient.
that.
I like the smell of perfume, the smell of
There you go.
flowers,
There you go.
the smell of fresh cookies,
Yeah, exactly.
fresh car smell, like the normal stuff. But
Yeah.
great job. You got 2 out of 3 correct.
Is that it?
You
The
got
three
the
of them?
important ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, thank you so much for playing higher lower with us. We have one last thing to ask you.
What is it?
Or actually 2, but one last question. There's one last question we'd like to ask all of our guests, okay? Very simple one. What's your go-to favorite song?
Oh my gosh. I'm a voter. I'm gonna probably pick an Arabic song.
It's like
Right now, it's probably one of the Palestine songs. So, you know, there's a Rajawi Falastini right now is like on my repeat list.
perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so grateful you took the time to talk to our community and share your experiences and knowledge with us. Are there any last words you'd like to end off on?
Yeah, last words is this right now is campaign season. You guys need to be out there. You
Yeah.
guys need to encourage other people to be out there voting, advocating. There is no more important time in history for our community than right now. Literally the entire world is watching what happens in southeastern Michigan. And you guys are the next wave. You guys are our representatives. So get out there and do something. Make
Yep,
some
yep, yep.
changes.
And just remember that this is not the only election that ever exists. Vote in your local elections, vote for legislative, vote for anything. Get involved. Well, that wraps up today's episode on the Nest Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in, and a huge thank you to Sam Luqman for talking with us today.
Thank you guys.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to our radio station. Leave a review at SIA Radio at starpsa.org and share the station with your friends. We'll be back soon with another exciting podcast and more fascinating discussions. Until next time, be sure to tune in to our live 365 radio feed that's bringing you the best music from today and yesterday. This is Lema Sharara signing off from the Nest radio station. Masalana.
HES Academies have been serving the Detroit metro area for over 23 years, promoting academic excellence, leadership, and cultural diversity, ranking as some of the top schools in the state of Michigan. Our pre-K through 12th grade students enjoy tuition-free, state-accredited education by STEM-certified and highly qualified staff with no geographical restrictions, and with advanced placement, college dual enrollment, scholarship, and Arabic language programs. Noor International Academy in Sterling Heights at niapsa.org, Star International Academy in Dearborn Heights and in Canton at starpsa.org, Universal Academy in Detroit at universalpsa.org, and Universal Learning Academy in Westland at ulapsa.org. Join HES Academies today and enjoy a free Chromebook for every enrolled student.